Good morning. This is a public meeting convened to review the fiscal year 2022 Indiana Arts Commission Arts Organization Support Grant Program applications for Region 3. I am Nancy Stewart from Fort Wayne, and I'm delighted to be here to facilitate this panel today, having served on the Indiana Arts Commission as a commissioner and also as past chair. Today is Friday, April 23rd, 2021, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. Applications will be in the description on the YouTube for your viewing pleasure. There is no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, stating their name, occupation, and where they are from in the state. Let's start with the panel. Carmen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carmen Say. I am the finance director for Regal Ballet Corporation in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Thank you. Jessica.
Good morning. I am Jessica Shaw. I'm a community development director with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Northeast Indiana.
Thank you, Jessica. And Steve.
Good morning. My name is Steve Lensenmeyer. I'm with Mental Health America of Northeast Indiana. I'm engagement coordinator there.
Thank you. And thank you for serving as panelists this morning. Let's move on to the staff, please. Stephanie.
Hello, Stephanie Haynes from the Indiana Arts Commission.
Chapin.
Hey there, Chapin Schnick, also from the Arts Commission, here in a tech role.
And we're delighted to have you here as such. And Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Clausen. I'm the Director of Grants and Programs for Arts United, and I am also the Regional Arts Partner for Region 3.
We couldn't do it without you, Heather. Now, at this time, I'd like to invite Stephanie from the Indiana Arts Commission to say a few words.
Thank you, Nancy. Before the panel review begins, I want to share a few words on behalf of the Indiana Arts Commission. First and foremost, thank you, panelists, for sharing your time and expertise. You've participated in specialized training to prepare for this work, which this year includes how to reduce implicit bias in your review process. And you've spent many hours reviewing these applications and lending your expertise to assure a high quality process. To all here and those listening, we want to say a few words about why this year's panel process is different. As longtime panel observers will soon discover, things are different this year. We've been very clear from the beginning of this upcoming grant cycle in our guidelines, application, and our training that our focus would be on what's most important right now, and that is to responsibly support our arts organizations at this critical time. And for this grant cycle, that means supporting organizations that demonstrate they are operating and will continue to operate during the fiscal year 22 grant period. As a result of these changes, you may hear very little dialogue or feedback about your application. That in no way reflects a lack of dedication to a thorough evaluation process. It's merely a reflection of this unique time and unique process. Again, thank you, panelists, thank you, applicants, thank you all for all you do for the arts in Indiana. Thank you, Nancy.
And thank you, Stephanie. Now, we will begin the panel review, and this is how the process will work. The panel will first review the application pool for operating support and then for merit award consideration. Each has a distinct and individual process. let me first go over the review process for operating support. In this process, panelists will be coming to consensus. They will use a summary sheet that has the results of their individual pre-panel assessments, which were based upon organization resiliency. The panel will come to consensus for each application to make one of the following recommendations to the Indiana Arts Commission. Yes, recommend for funding the application as is. No, do not recommend funding the application. Or yes, recommend funding the application with required modifications. The required modifications will be determined by the panel. This means IAC and partners will follow up with the applicant after the panel to collect information to ensure panelists' concerns are addressed. Once a decision has been made for each application, the staff will record the decision. Once the review for operating support is complete, we'll move to the merit process. For the merit review process, all applicants that elected to submit for merit consideration were assigned a reader. And today, the panel will use the reader process to discuss the applications. After the first reader is finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. In the interest of time, we will only look for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. Once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores on the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion. These scores save automatically. Now, are there any questions? Then we will begin. We will start with the panel for operating support. On the screen is a list of applications that will be reviewed today. They're in alphabetical order. To begin the review for operating support, panelists, please draw your attention to your resiliency assessment summary sheet. We'll start our review in batches where there is consensus. Panelists, I want to draw your attention to the rows in green on your summary sheet. These are where you have consensus to recommend the applicants for funding. Now, I'm going to give you a few minutes to look those over. Okay, for those that are marked in green, does anybody have on the panel any concerns? Is there a general consensus that we want to recommend these for funding? Thumbs up, thumbs up. Oop, 1, 2, 3, terrific. Hearing no concerns, then the panel agrees to recommend these applications for funding. Therefore, Heather, we have consensus. Panelists recommend the following applications for funding. Arena Dinner Theater, Audiences Unlimited, Creative Arts Council of Wells County, Embassy Theater Foundation, Fort Wayne Area Community Band, Fort Wayne Ballet, Fort Wayne Children's Choir, Fort Wayne Cinema Center, Fort Wayne Civic Theater, Fort Wayne Dance Collective, Fort Wayne Youth Theater, Foundation for Music and Elementary Education, Heartland Sings, and Unity Performing Arts Foundation. Thank you. Now we will move on to our next group of, hold on, I've got that one there. To those that have been recommended for funding with modifications. Beginning with All for One Productions. What concerns might we have here? Steve?
Yes. I was looking at the budgeted figures for 2021, and they're largely unchanged from budget figures in 2020, in spite of the differences between the actuals from 2020 and the projections for this year. It'd be interesting to see an updated version of those. Really, a lot of them looked like they were copied over from one column to the next. It's about nine, I don't know, not all of them, but the budget figures are still well different than the actuals from last year and the projections for this year.
In other words, what you are looking for is an updated budget.
Yes, I think one that reflects the realities of last year more so.
Okay. Does anybody else have any concerns? And would you all be in agreement that this would be helpful to you? All right. So if I'm hearing you all correctly, you would like to recommend All for One Productions for funding with the modification that you would like to receive an updated budget that reflects the previous year. Do I get a thumbs up on that one? Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, thank you. Moving on then to Artlink. What might our concerns be with Artlink?
I have something, Nancy, but I have too many pieces of paper in front of me.
All right,
Hang on.
work on finding those papers.
Oh, there we are. Something that is not discussed in the narrative is any changes in the salary personnel lines of the budget. Let me just read what I had down here. And this has to do with the budgeting. If the salaried personnel levels are consistent with 2020, why are the 2021 budget and projected amounts respectively $20,000 to $38,000 less than 2020 actuals? A brief narrative of changes under those lines would offer helpful clarification.
Jessica, Carmen, you have any concerns here? In other words, let me see if I've got this right. You would like more information on the changes in the salary line item in the budget as it differs from 20 to 21?
They had indicated that there had been no personnel changes. It seems to be a large change, considering that.
So they have said that there are no personnel changes, but yet the budget reflects same, correct?
The budget reflects some sort of change, yes.
Carmen and Jessica? Would you be in consensus and agree that that might be helpful if you knew more information about that?
Yeah, perhaps that will be helpful. As I would assume perhaps it's a reduced hour for the upcoming year, or that might reflect the change, but I think that further information will be helpful.
Jessica, you're nodding your head. In other words, okay.
I agree.
The AOS panel today then would recommend Artlink for funding, and would very much like to know about the budget line item changes in salary from 20 to 21, having reflected in the narrative that there were no changes in personnel, yet the budget does reflect a change. You got that one, Heather? Does that sound right?
That sounds
Oh,
good to the panelists. I've got it.
okay. Thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. Circus City Festival. No, pardon. Yeah. What are our concerns here? Circus City Festivals, concerns.
Looking at the application, to me, it seems like there's really sound financials to reemerge after the pandemic, but I'd really like to see a little bit more information about, it says there's planning that exists, but what is the organization doing to continue preserving the art form? Who is the organization reaching as a general audience? I'd just like a little bit more information as they're re-engaging post-pandemic, how they're continuing with that mission.
So what I'm hearing is you'd like to know a little bit more about the art form as they're moving forward, correct? Steve, Carmen? Do you have?
I agree with Jessica. There's a lot more information we could have. The narrative is very short. Her specifics are, I agree with. They're good to know. It looks like they may be doing some things to react and to make sure they're in good shape, but it's kind of hard to tell what those are. They do mention them fairly, just very briefly, without any real description. That's not quite correct. They could use more description. I imagine most people can use that when they're describing what they do. Sometimes we go.
Sorry, Steve. Yeah, I agree with both of you that we should be offered for more information.
Thank you, Carmen. So we are in agreement to recommend Circus City Festival for funding with more information about the art form as it moves forward. Thumbs up? Okay, thank you. And now the Fort Wayne Philharmonic. What are our concerns here?
I think that in the description, there is, it talked about with the organization's survival, it talked about the Phil would require 5 years to recover financially from post-pandemic. There is a marketing task force to focus on how to get this audience back. But at the same time, we don't have a lot of information on the programming, how the organization is preserving the art form. A lot of the business information, but not a lot of how the art form is being preserved post-pandemic. So I think I would like to have more information on that in that front.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is more about the art form and how it will be preserved post-pandemic.
Correct. Yeah, because I think there's not a lot of, as far as like a high-level timeline, how that is gonna, the art form is gonna be preserved and come back versus, with the marketing plan, obviously that needs to go hand in hand. So it will be good to at least have an idea how that high-level timeline is gonna look like for the survival of the film.
Okay. Steve and Jessica, would that be helpful to you as well?
Yes, it would be. She stated it well.
I'm going to disagree a little bit with preserving the art form, just with the programs that they have listed that they continued with. So reaching their youth, they started a podcast. I was pleased to see those. I would agree with Carmen. Looking at the 5-year recovery, it would be helpful to have more information financially of what that is, just due on COVID.
So, am I hearing this correctly? That given a 5-year forecast, that you would like to have more information on how the art form is going to be preserved following the pandemic over the next 5 years.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I think that the education piece, the organization had that pivoted to a virtual format, and that's been going on. But I think there is another big piece that what the fill is about that is not clear in the application, because with all the concerts being canceled.
Okay, so to try here and summarize it again, what I'm hearing is that more from a high level, how over the next 5 years are they going to return to what I might refer to as full capacity?
Correct.
Jessica? Thumbs up? Heather, you got that? So we will recommend for funding the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Orchestra, let me see if I can say it again, with a little more information on and timeline over the next 5 years, how they are going to return to pre-pandemic operation. That sound pretty good? All right. Thank you very much. Heather, have we completed that? Yippee, you all. You did a great job. A thumbs up for you on this one. Okay. And do let me know when you're ready to take a break. We will now move into, we'll move into the merit award considerations, talking about paper, Steve. I'm getting mine a little mixed up. Let's go ahead then and move to the merit award consideration. Once again, as a reminder, this is a different process. And this process, unlike the last, panels will provide their assessment of the application's merit award submission and update their scores based upon the discussion. Panelists, please refer to the merit awards consideration list. And we will begin with the Arena Dinner Theater, and Steve is our first reader. Don't forget to take yourself off mute, Steve.
I won't. You know what I'm doing. I'm looking for my stupid paper. Oh, my paper's not stupid. I think it might be operator error. Arena Dinner Theater. The collaborations that are mentioned in this are very impressive. Where am I? They're allowing Arena to promote their artistic mission while supporting other important nonprofits in the area, especially given the times. The sorts of a homeless shelter and literacy organization. Expanding the programming. They're also expanding programming to directly involved underserved community members through poetry slams, other sorts of efforts. that is a great way to reach out, share the mission with the community, and develop new ties in with the community. As I said earlier, it's really good to see the expanded collaborations, especially when they cross that non-arts organization border. That's a favorite of mine. It really helps bond a lot of things in the community together.
Thank you.
All
right. Jessica, Carmen, do you have anything that you would like to add? Jessica?
I do. I was similar to Steve, really inspired with the collaborations that were established. I'd like to hear just a little bit more information. So those collaborations were established, but what conversations are happening together with the organization? So what could you survey the audience or those organizations to develop programming together as opposed to just finding and filling a need? How can we work together to do that?
Are there any other comments? All right, then let's finalize our scores, please. And give me a thumbs up when you've done so. 1, 2. You got it, Steve? Okay. Okay, poor Steve. Finding his papers. We're now ready to move on to Artlink. Steve?
Right here. You have no idea how proud I am. One of the things I was especially happy to see was how their board is engaged in actually developing new fundraising options for the organization. This is the great time to do that, an important time to do that. That they're also seeing some, I think they're seeing and going to see more payoff by seeking a more grassroots approach which they've approached by adding to their artist panel to be a little more reflective of the community and its diversity. And they're expanding the number of open calls for entries, which is, again, a very good way to make sure that you can hear voices that are in the community that may or may not otherwise be heard through more formalized exhibitions and planning like that. So they're on top of it. They're trying to look towards the future. I think in their application, where am I again? I think they could have a little more specific. They could be a lot more specific about how they're carrying some of these other things forward. But overall, I think they're doing a great job. And I think I read a different section of that. So that was sort of an overall. Sorry, gosh, this is a fun year. I meant what I said. In the merit category, they're a little light on specific pandemic related efforts. Kudos on the multi-layered successes of the exhibition, that the example they give, which was related to Black Lives Matter and a photographer's work in Fort Wayne of what went on in this town during that time. I'd like to know how they see this affecting a future, helping create a future template for exhibitions and how to broaden their impact and the way they engage the audiences across the community.
Thank you, Steve. Do we have any additional comments?
Yeah, I do. The one thing that I went to the website to look at, after reading the application, I was looking for the mission statement to just get a clarification as far as what they are doing, how is it aligning to the mission statement. And I was, I'm not sure if the first cover page sentence is the mission or is it something else? So I'm a little bit curious to see how what they do noted in the application is aligning with the mission statement.
And I just had some comments piggybacking off of what Steve said. I think there's some really amazing initiatives that have come out of this organization, kind of next level as you're looking toward applying for future grants and things, if you can track the audiences that you're reaching with these new initiatives, looking at demographics, it mentions partnering with schools. What populations are we really reaching with these exhibitions and things along those lines? I would encourage you to look at that or to survey audiences to get that information, which would really strengthen future applications.
Thank you. If we have no further comments, I ask you please to finalize your scores and give me a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Terrific. Thank you. Embassy Theater Foundation, Jessica.
Actually, Nancy, we have to do Audiences Unlimited is next.
Oh, sorry about that. All right. Audiences Unlimited. Carmen?
Kudos to all these organizations for a tough year. And I think that a lot of them, including Audience Unlimited, also become very flexible and adaptable. And we're able to find ways to partner and collaborate with other organizations. And they even, I think that, with the audience that they serve is, has always been the underserved, the ones that with limited access. And I think that they have been very successful during this difficult time to really pivot to reach those groups. And I think that really kudos to them to be able to not only get to these individuals that need it served and, to fulfill the inclusion and diversity mission, but at the same time, they have been able to track how many hours of content and how many the impact that they have been able to reach. And I think that it's wonderful that, even through difficult times, they have been able to serve more underserved populations. So really kudos to them. And they were able to preserve the art form and continue to offer those services to individuals at no cost. So kudos to them.
Additional comments?
I think by the application and by the merit narrative, you can see how much thought and planning has gone into what they've done. They're at a very hard place, an organization that primarily sent performers into assisted living centers and such, obviously not able to do that initially. They found ways to actually get live performers in front of some of those audiences before the year was out. But you can tell it was a very careful and a careful yet ambitious approach to this, which is very impressive.
Any other additional comments? All right, then let's finalize the scores for Audiences Unlimited with a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Now we can move on to the Embassy Theater Foundation. Jessica.
As I'm switching pages here, I really want to commend the embassy for using the pandemic to really re-envision their role with the community as a collaborative entity. So having national shows and tours and things canceled with the pandemic, the embassy was able to really partner with the community and offer a lot of smaller nonprofits in the region availability for them to continue to succeed and reach more audiences and youth and families in the community. And so I thought collaboration was really a strength. And again, just want to really commend for the Merit Award, the role and the thought and the effort and the planning that went into re-envisioning that role and looking at that success for all of us to reemerge from the pandemic.
Thank you. Any additional, new, or different comments to make? You ready to finalize your scores, please? With a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. The Fort Wayne Ballet, Steve.
Fort Wayne Ballet facing a lot of these same issues. Look, there is a lot of this across the board of people really looking hard at themselves and what they do to still serve people with and serve the art form. They made some quick adjustments early on in March of 2020 by pivoting a physical performance of Midsummer Night's Dreams to a virtual performance, and were able in the process to earn $10,000 in donations from audiences from and around and beyond Fort Wayne. That was quick thinking. That was quick moving. They maintained their outreach. They maintained outreach efforts and relationships with area schools as they made these pivots and kept that sort of programming going. I was most excited. They twice annually, they traditionally do sensory-friendly performances, if we're familiar with those. Obviously not able to do those in person. They shifted to online and did meet and greets as they would. Most impressively, they put together a touch and feel book that included samples of fabrics from the show, props, snow that you would use in the show, as something they sent out to people who are taking part in this. I thought that was very, very creative thinking. Their passion, along with an open-eyed approach to an uncertain future, has really benefited their organization, their performers who are still working, and the audiences. So, hooray. It's very good.
Additional comments? Ready to finalize your scores? 1, thumb, 2, 3 thumbs. Like that. All right. Fort Wayne Cinema Center, our reader is Carmen.
Yes, I think that with the new executive director came on board, I think that the long-term survival is obviously critical with Cinema Center, because as we all know, with the industry itself is definitely changing. But I think that with the pandemic, they have still been able to not only just pivot to online streaming, which is, obviously it's obvious, but at the same time, they were able to introduce film that actually reflect the current issues and have those conversations and really engage the community to continue with that conversation and use the film, the art form as a connection, as a connector to engage in those conversations. I think that's great, and I think that they are certainly planning for long-term survival. That's definitely the planning in that, and as well as the continuation of how to continue to engage the community, because it's film. It's a lot of times it's just audience are just on the receiving end. So how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors as well as other individual independent film house? So I think they're doing great things. Continue to engage the community in critical issues in those conversations. So I think they're doing great. So kudos to them.
Thank you, Carmen. Do we have any additional comments?
I agree with everything Carmen said. I really appreciated the phenomenal reflection that went into this application, especially re-engaging with their mission and figuring out what that means in a pandemic world and planning for beyond. next level, a suggestion that I would challenge this organization with is finding out more about the audiences that you're serving. So making programming available is remarkable for Indiana residents here, but sending out surveys, sending out more information to find out how to best partner with those collaborations you're creating, and figuring out who your audience really is, I think would be a really great next step to look at as you're looking at ongoing planning.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other comments? You ready to finalize your scores? With a thumbs up when you're ready. 1, 2, 3. Terrific. Fort Wayne Civic Theater. Carmen, we're back at you.
Yep, back at me. Kudos to them, really. It's, again, you know, a lot of these art organizations require audiences, you know, live audiences to be able to keep the organization going. And, you know, they've been able to not only pivot to, you know, obviously they were interrupted at the same time, they were able to really think beyond and outside the box, how to bring shows to larger venue and continue with the mission. And I think that, you know, even through the difficult times this past year, they continue to be able to collaborate and partner with other organizations, in particular with, you know, with the League of Women Voters. They have conversations and discussions with different speakers and continue to engage with that conversation, not just putting a live show on and be done with it. So I think that, you know, with, you know, the team is truly, you know, through, you know, reading through the application, it's truly reflected that the team is truly committed and continue with this mission to serve those, you know, who are, you know, not just, you know, regular audiences, but also those who are unable to attend shows or afraid to attend. So I think that, you know, even though, you know, shows were interrupted, they were still art form is still being preserved, whether it's virtually or, you know, at a larger venue. So absolute kudos to them to be able to pivot quickly and continue with the quote unquote new normal.
Thank you, Carmen. Additional new comments?
I would underline just, it's good to see an organization that's been around for a while that trade on and use some real strong collaborative effort with other organizations in town, some arts organizations, some not, really showing some creative thought that was very important at this time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Then are we ready to finalize the scores here? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. The Foundation for Art and Music in Elementary Education, Jessica.
This was an organization that was pretty drastically impacted by the pandemic, since they so much of their organization is functioned on an annual event that hit right when, or it was scheduled right when the pandemic hit. And so they weren't able to have that event. I really want to commend the direction that this organization pivoted to as they were challenged with the pandemic. So transitioning to displaying student work virtually and creating virtual experiences for students. And I was especially impressed with their creating art kits for families to take during the pandemic, entirely free of charge. And all of this happening in collaboration with teachers, I thought was really, really remarkable for an organization that was impacted so drastically. Next level suggestions that I had would, and I know this was pivoting on a dime this year, but looking at specific demographics and data of populations that are being served through these methods, especially if this is the virtual and the kind of take and go art experiences are something you're looking at for future, finding ways to survey those that are impacted or taking those kits, finding out what they're doing with them, all of that good stuff. Also, just a thought is maybe collaborating directly with classrooms in a virtual live session, or having two classrooms virtually meet with one another to share art experiences were just some suggestions that I had reading over things. But again, really, really commending this organization for the direction they were able to take.
Thank you. Additional comments?
For me, the most exciting line in their application and for merit support is talking about how, quote, the activities and relationships formed in response to the pandemic have benefited our organization and the community by expanding our reach. That's great. That's harder than it looks. So well done.
Sounds like you might be ready to finalize those scores. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Heartland sings. Steve.
Okay. Heartland Sings reached out early to donors and patrons and got the message back that people were not interested in coming out to live events, even when permissible by mandates. So they went to work in other ways. They pushed harder on social media. What does that mean? They had a 17% increase on Facebook, the highest increase they'd seen in a 12-month period. They invested in a virtual platform to connect, as so many of us have, with performances and such. They also are utilizing a mobile performing arts stage that they're looking forward to using this summer to start, not only to get back to performances that are in person, these would be outdoor performances, but I think they really show some thoughtfulness when they say that this will not only let these audiences be served now, but it's a transition to getting people back into live performances, a transition into possibly getting people back into theater spaces and other venues. And that's strong and realistic thinking. They kept their educational programming sound and growing, and they were benefiting somewhat from on their live stream platform. They were ticketing and getting some money from that, but they were also making those performances available, they say, via local television outlets, which allowed it to be seen by anyone who was interested. And they did show signs of really promoting those efforts too. By the looks of it here, they barely seem to have skipped a beat. They really looked around, saw what resources they had, and kept moving and doing the thing they love.
Thank you, Steve. Any other new comments to make? All right, then it sounds like you're ready to finalize your scores. 1, 2, 3. And now I suppose we need a drum roll. The Unity Performing Arts Foundation, Jessica.
Again, commending all these organizations, but Unity, again, they were another organization that absolutely didn't miss a beat. They had kids to serve. They weren't able to do it in person, and so they pivoted on a dime and created accessible ways to still reach these kids, to still push out their mission, doing really intensive surveys, focus groups with the community, with the families they serve. And so just really commending the sophisticated virtual system, the virtual training center that this organization developed in order to maintain programming and the impact for the underserved populations of kids. Really inspiring. And collaboration is a strength of this organization, particularly collaboration to enhance diversity and inclusion within its programming. Just a really phenomenal job, well done with the transition, with the pandemic, and just keeping moving forward and doing what needed to be done.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other additional comments? New, different, or opposing?
I think the high level of detail that goes in that they describe these programs and what they did, the ones that Jessica was talking about, shows some real time taken in planning, which in a crisis situation is tough to do sometimes and tough to justify, but it's absolutely imperative. They seem to have hit that mark.
Ready to finalize the scores one last time? 1, 2, 3 thumbs. Thank you so much. This concludes the fiscal year 22 Region 3 Arts Organizational Support Grant Panel. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the June commission meeting. If you have any questions, please contact our regional arts partner representative, Heather Clausen. And thank you all so very, very much.